Knowing our audience, audience-centeredness. Knowing our audience, audience-centeredness. Audience-centeredness is a function of any good public speaker. Public speakers know that they are not there to intimidate the audience, nor are they there to voice their personal feelings or emotions. The primary purpose of public speaking is to gain the desired response from the listener while conveying a meaningful message. Lucas, 2007. First, audience-centeredness requires that the speaker thinks about their intended audience's background and interests. Next, thought needs to be focused on their level of knowledge, level of education, regarding the speech topic. Lucas, 2007. The first question posed in this discussion forum is that as a speaker giving a speech on the Vietnam War, and being a high school history teacher, this discussion is designed around how we as students are to devise the composition of our speech and deliver it. Given that this is the year 2022, and the audience members with the first group chosen are in their 60s and 70s, one would need to examine our audience's ages and ascertain whether the audience was alive and able even to remember the Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975. Further, with the application of simple mathematics, calculations were made, and the oldest audience member would have been born around 1952 to 1962. Given this information, they should have some knowledge of the war police action. Thought would then turn to the speaker's thoughts about the audience's attitude towards the speaker's stance on the topic. How will the audience feel about the personal stance on the presented subject? With these thoughts in mind, one would have to explain their position in a clear, engaging, and persuasive manner to the audience. Given the current age of this student and that of the intended audience, this would be an easy speech to form, keeping all the aforementioned in mind. Next, let us first determine what the ultimate goal is in giving the speech. What message do we intend to get across to our audience? Keeping personal bias aside, what are the goals, values, and beliefs of our audience? How does one think they will feel and react to the chosen subject? How knowledgeable are they on the subject? The second group chosen for this discussion is a group of young international students from a local university. The first thing to be done would be to ascertain the exact place, location, this group of international students was previously located. Are they from the Middle East, the Orient, Europe, the Eastern, or the Western Hemisphere? Once we have ascertained the location these students are from, and what is found out, we could hypothesize their thoughts about the Vietnam War. Given that we have determined their origins, we can then form an assumption on their thoughts about the Vietnam War. The audience came with the goal of learning, of obtaining further knowledge about the Vietnam War. Given that the questions posed are hypothetical, one can only assume some points. The needed information could be gotten by contacting the student's university and asking them, where are these students from? Do you have a list of those who will be attending the speech? Secondly, if you are not the organizer of the venue in which the speech is to be given, try contacting the organizer, as information could also be gathered from this source. In order to adapt the speech given the differences between groups, this student would think that the first group must have prior knowledge of the war, being that they lived during the era in question. Nevertheless, they grew up knowing the war, and some may have even been war babies. The second group, the generation to follow, boomers, is now acquiring knowledge, learning this country's history, and learning of the life and times of the men and women who served during this police action war. One may speak with the first group on a more personal basis and share personal views and beliefs, thoughts, and ideas, while the second group will be more of a teaching thing. The younger generation will need to be looked at with an entirely different perspective. They will not have felt the emotions of having lived through or been part of a family that was actively engaged in the war. To connect personally with the audience, and most importantly, once we have discovered all those issues mentioned above, once we have become knowledgeable in the psychology of our audience, we must make the audience choose to pay attention. As students, we know from our studies that people want to hear and learn about things that are meaningful to them. Actually, in this day and age, People are more concerned about their own personal problems and well-being and only want to hear about anything that makes life better for them, but that is neither here nor there. If we are stuck giving a speech to an audience that has no interest in the subject, we are toast, to begin with. The audience must be drawn into the speech, so one must relate the speech to the listener, show how it relates to them, and explain why they, the audience, should be as passionate about the subject as you. Lucas, 2007. Again, this means that we must connect with the audience's goals, values, beliefs, and knowledge base. References: Lucas, S. E., 2007. The Art of Public Speaking. 2, 13th edition. Mcgraw-Hill,